Daytonian resident. I've worked in many different facets in the city with young people from higher education, secondary education. I'm an entrepreneur, I have businesses of my own, but my passion has been working with young people. The greatest joy I probably had was coaching and being an adjunct professor. I was working in higher ed as an administrator, and that's full of politics and everything, but working with the young people was where the greatest joy I would have all day long, and it was teaching political science, politics, you know, so that's what my degree and my background is in, and so those are the courses I taught. And so I've always been somewhat of a political analyst, analyzing politics, analyzing how it impacts communities, society, so forth and so on. And so as I was saying in the open, it's kind of like our political climate has driven me to want to step aside from my business and start providing opportunities for dialogue to improve and enhance change in our communities. So that's what's brought me here. That's what connected Julie and I, and this is where we're headed with this project. The name of the project, we have tagged it United We Stand, because divided we fall.
If you don't know me, my name is Julie. I have a nonprofit, Malachi, and our vision there is raising up leaders of a nation from unlikely places. So I work primarily with men in prison, been down at Lebanon Correctional Institution for the last over 5 years. And what's awesome about the work that I do, Dan, I know Dan from there as well, he got me into the prisons, but what's awesome about that is seeing some of the most unlikely people. You come in there, you got different gangs and different things, but you see how love and just, you know, respecting people, giving people honor and respect, how you can bring together like these opposing forces, the most unlikely people. And so when I go into prison, I mean, we have some of the most civil, respectful conversations. And so I know that if it's possible to do in a maximum security prison where I'm working with, you know, rapists, murderers, gang leaders, people who've done some of the most heinous crimes, if we can create civility there, I know we definitely can do it out here.
God, we humble ourselves this afternoon or this evening just to come together. What you have called us is to come together and break those barriers.
Yes.
Teach us how to live in peace as the Word of God said. I trust you, and we trust you that this around the table we come with outcomes where people will see this as a light to shine for the whole nation, that all we can come together. And we need your help. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now everyone has to hug. No.
Okay.
That's Julie.
This country was founded in its most essence part based upon civil discourse. It reaches its highest effectiveness when we come together with varying ideas and concepts to solve solutions. It's how we're all going to interact and live and operate together. In the absence of civil discourse, we have had in our history civil wars. That is simply the breakdown of communication when we are no longer able to peaceably share ideas, agree, disagree, come up with a happy medium for us to operate in civilized society. And so what we want to do in response to our current political climate, where we see every day the breakdown of the ability to come together and have hard discussions where we may agree, may not agree, but we can agree to disagree and try to all aspire for a greater good for society and humankind. And so that is the hope of our mission, is to reintroduce to the immediate community and the rest of the world the ability to sit and discuss life's most important things and come up with ideas and solutions and hear ideas and concepts that we may not have otherwise thought and or agreed with, but we gain a higher life.
You know, the anonymity that on social media, people would say things that they would never say face to face. So we just kind of want to bring back that intimacy, the personal, you know, of getting one-on-one and realizing that at the end of the day, we're all a whole lot more alike than we are different. The first question we want to start off asking you guys is, do you think racial relations have improved or gotten worse over the last 10 years, and why? What are your thoughts on that?
When you look at racism and you look at school, for example, Black History Month. Well, if we're going to teach history, there shouldn't be a Black History Month. But there's a reason why, because there's obviously some Black history that's being excluded for why there needs to be a Black History Month. So I'm just using that as an example.
They don't really talk about it. They kind of just go over, you know about the peanut, you know about like Washington Park, all that stuff, right? But like, a little bit of that, but they don't really get into the finite details and how much our society's actually been, for good actually, as we know, driven by African American influence, right? It's really kind of crazy when you look at music, art, all that stuff,
Absolutely.
right? And the more that I got into that as I got older, I realized that like, it's actually, music and art, I believe, is something that can bring us together. Like, because, poor white kids are getting beat up just as much educationally, socioeconomically, all that stuff as poor African American kids or Hispanic kids or whatever. And so it puts everyone in the same boat. And so now, again, we're more alike than we're not alike. And I think we're starting to kind of feel that and see that. And if you look metrically, it's got to be a systems problem because it's not a money problem.
Right.
Because I'm pretty close on this, but Oakwood spends less per kid by about $1,800 to $2,000 per kid per year than Dayton Public Schools does. If you look at all the resources and you divide it across the population, there's a big reason why they're top 10 in the state and Dayton's bottom 8 in the state, right? So we have to just have these discussions and start to get to it. What I'm excited about is we're all starting to feel like we just need to get involved.
That's maybe where we're at right now, where it's like these conversations, things have happened to ignite these conversations. So like right now, it looks really messy and it looks like maybe it's getting worse. But I think kind of what you guys are saying is that by that happening, it's causing these discussions that we would not be sitting here probably if all this stuff wasn't going on, right? So because of that, now we can have these conversations to get to the root and say, okay, what is the root of this?
You got young people in this world who know the world that they know now. They don't know the world that I even was introduced to in 1973, and moving forward from there. And I don't know the world that my parents knew when they couldn't go to certain places and do certain things. So if you ask me a question of, well, since I've been alive, have race relations improved? In some areas, I would say significantly. In some areas, I would say not as much as we'd like to.
I'm going to say no. The reason why I say no is because I don't know, without trying to play the blame game, it seems like the media sensationalizes when we have something negative.
Right.
Is that to sell more papers? Is that to sell more books? But for some reason, it seems like we are drawn to that.
Right.
Charlottesville, okay? But then you have a man that killed his family out in Colorado. Nothing, okay? And then, but the media's gonna play up that, like I said, I'm not trying to blame, but it's because we take that in and we accept, okay, that's the truth, that's it, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna do my research. Whatever he said, that goes. No, instead of us taking the initiative to get out and find out what is the real truth behind all this. We'll do, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna stay on this side because I'd rather be tribal and have you like me or you like me than to stand out on my own and say, you know what, I want to do something about it.
What drives me is I try to go back and look at definitions. And what I found is it was helpful for me to understand racial relations when I understood definitions like what is ethnocentrism, what is racism, what is bigotry, and what is prejudice. And those are all similar, but they're really 4 different things. And it helped me, conceptualize the difference, and then it helps me lead a conversation a little bit better. Like, okay, it was this, because I see a lot of people that throw out the word racism, but was it really racism or was it bigotry?
Right.
Was it prejudice? And is all prejudice bad?
I think one of the things that we need to do better at is, one, we need to not just make assumptions about people and not jump to conclusions so quickly. But I notice in our society, you know, and this isn't just race related, but this is everything, you know, we're so critical of people. Like you know, people say one word and boom, we're like on with an axe. We're ready to hang people and like light them up with fire. And you know, there's a whole nother aspect to this person. And I think myself, if somebody sat and had a camera on me 24/7, 7 days a week, there's probably all kinds of nasty things you could say about me. You know what I'm saying? You could paint me like really horrible. Like, so I hope nobody follows me around with a camera. But for me personally, I mean, I got friends, all different ethnicities, races, so it doesn't really cross my mind until like it's brought to my attention. But I think just that's one thing. Like, we need to just give people more benefit of the doubt. And even if somebody is racist or somebody is bigoted, like, we have to think, instead of like condemning them, and this goes back to my work in prison, like when I walk in, I don't go look up what they're in there for. You know, I don't go in and say, oh, you're a rapist, you're this, you're that. Like, I go in and I try to find the good out of the most horrible person. I had a guy tell me the other day, he's in there for life, beat his girlfriend with a baseball bat, you know, buried her body in the ground, burnt the place up, and I gotta go in there and I gotta bring good out of this guy. You know, so what if I went in there and I'm like, you're, you know, a brutal, horrible person, but I go in there, you know, every week, twice a week, and I go in there and I look for good. And so for me, as, you know, as a nation, like, I think that's what we need to do a better job of. Like, maybe they are hateful, maybe they are racist, maybe they're a horrible person, but what can I, as an individual, do to help this person see people as different? Like, how can I break down that barrier? And it's hard to do when, you know, somebody's throwing hatred your way. Like, it's just natural, it's like knee-jerk reaction. I think that there is racism that's going on. I think we do have problems, and it's good that we're talking about it, and it's messy right now. But I also think the media plays a big part in, like you said, sensationalizing this stuff. And I think we, as citizens, need to take back our media, you know? So, you know, my thing is, whatever you focus on, it grows. So if I focus on, you know, if a kid has a learning disability, and all I talk about is, you know, you failed, guess what? You're probably gonna keep on failing. But I think that this kind of stuff is important, where we, you know, put it on YouTube, put it on social media, and break down these barriers. But I think that, yeah, it sells. You know, I mean, sensational negativity sells. They're not interested in solutions, they're interested in ratings, and they don't care if they provoke and stoke the fire and create riots and people's neighborhoods and businesses burn down, because guess what? I'm going back home, I'll film it, and I'm leaving, and you have to deal with the aftermath. So I think we need to be aware of how we're being played sometimes by the media.
Yeah, you know, this is what Sheriff had, he and I were talking about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the media, we got to take it back, because they're writing the story for us. You know, I think, to answer your question, I think race relations are better. I judge that from the workforce. I have 450 employees. We try to be a diverse organization, and we all get along. In the community, we all get along, but the media grabs one thing they can run with to blow it out of proportion. Man, that's gospel, right? And our other problem is social media, which is unsocial media. So now we got keyboard cowboys sitting in their basement firing away at everybody. And that's gospel all of a sudden, right? And that stuff can get wheels real quick. You look at this group. This is a great, diverse group. We're all getting along. We're all trying to solve problems. We can do this.
I seen the media does play a significant role into that, because they want all this negative dogma, because they know everybody's feeding on that, and that's what draws everybody's like a vampire. But at the same time, that what media was designed to be that way. You look, read the Protocols of Zion. It talks about the media being as a tool to dissect people and keep them divisive and divided. I mean, very much so. But the solution, I believe, would be, if you're going to go into these institutions and you have friends from different ethnicities, and there is some sense of discrimination, harassment, or things that are going on, you got to be man or woman enough to hold your partners or your business partners or associates accountable to their actions. It's an ethical thing. what's ethically right and what's ethically wrong.
We are all aware that our media is the driving force behind a lot of what is going on. 100 million things that impacts someone. And a favorite saying that I always like to say is that a broken clock is right twice a day. So if that broken clock can be right twice a day, there are things that people that don't look like me, that don't talk like me, that don't act like me, can actually be right about. And we as people have to be willing to say, you know what, I might not like that person, but they're kind of right on this one.
A very simple example. It's when people are coming from India, they came here right away. They be expat, they work anyway. So when the immigrant came here with the degree, no matter which degree you have, they don't want to look at it. They just want to tell you, ESL is down the street right here at St. Paul. Go there, we don't want to see you. We seem like you're not even, you ignoring, you never go to church. So if we see all those things, when it grows, when it comes up, it's a big issue. So that means this city needed to embrace all the
immigrants.
Yeah, not only look at the Black history,
Right.
which is, this is something also is coming up. It's a little thing, but it's coming. It's coming. If you can see in Dayton now, it's a huge number of immigration here in the area.
One thing about race relations is we try to transition out, but one thing that is true, everybody thinks that race relations has to do with black and white, right?
There you go.
When race relations in this country is now very, very diversified.
Good.
You have, I'll never forget going to Miami. You know, I love going to the beach, and Miami's a beautiful town, and I see a brother over there, and I'm like, hey man, what's up? And when he comes back at me with something like totally different, right? I was like, wow, okay.
I think the issue, when you look at that, when you say black and white, I think that when we say black, we only mean people from America.
Right.
I know people who is like this young man right here. I don't know what your ethnic, racial makeup is, but my brother's the same complexion as him. Right? They left him in Mexico. They really did. They went to Mexico, they was like, you can't take him across the border. My mom was like, what the hell? It's my son. Like, what are you talking about? They're seeing something.
This is what I would, if I have to like, I don't want to digress, but I think there's one word that kind of is a bridge for this, and it's empathy. And like, and to truly be empathetic, you have to know them. It's really hard to like, I mean, sometimes you meet people and you hate them and you know them and whatever, but like, you know, but broadly speaking, to just like paint a whole group or a whole neighborhood with the same brush.
Right.
That's a really tough thing to do unless you've never been in that neighborhood. And then it's super easy. And you know, like, or like when I first came to Ohio, all of my investment buddies on the West Coast were like, Ohio sucks. The whole goddamn state sucks. And I'm like, how is that possible? You know, and then they're like, well, Columbus sucks. So now it's the top 2 real estate market in the country.
Exactly.
You know, 7 years later, right? And so until people can know, I came here and fell in love with the joint and moved here 4 years later. And I've been here for 3 years now in Dayton. So like, it's just interesting. I think once you get to know folks and understand their history, maybe their family's history, you start to get an understanding. Like, there's something called the U.S. Housing Act of 1949. I didn't know what that meant. You probably know what that did to African American families coming up from the South.
Absolutely.
It gutted them. Yeah. It took the paternal role model out. It separated those families from their extended families in the South, so you've already basically put them in a risky situation. And then in order for those families to be able to move in this new beautiful government housing, the dads had to bounce because they couldn't get in, you know, like the Pruitt-Igoe stuff in St. Louis and all that. I had no idea that happened. And so like understanding creates empathy.
What we're getting at, or the question we want to ask now is, why do you believe there's such a large gap between blacks and whites in this particular area, and basically the perception of relationships with our law enforcement? Because me teaching at an HBCU, working in communities with mostly minority children, but also having the opportunity, if you know anything about the Dayton area, there's this town called Piqua, Ohio. Right?
Sound like
I worked at Edison Community College as the dean of students out there. And as you may imagine,
What's the school called?
Edison Community
Oh,
College.
Edison, okay.
I was the only black administrator on that campus that some of them had ever been, you know, experienced.
Right.
Is that north of Dayton?
Yes.
Yeah.
I adjuncted, and I'll never forget, adjuncted to a class of all white students. Now, I had never done this before, and I'll never forget thinking, real quickly, right before the class started, I thought to myself, either this is gonna go really well, or this is gonna go really bad. But we're gonna see where it goes. And so having had that mixed bag of experience and actually being around different cultures and different learning styles and all types of different things, that was some exposure for me that was good, because I had never done that before. I never even fathomed in my life that that would be something that would happen. So when it did, I took it in and brought it in. So, okay, so I understand a lot differently why, and I'm more open to maybe why this person thinks this way, why that person thinks that way. But in the question that we just asked, or the topic we just introduced, there's a gap between us, and we know all the things that are going on. But one thing that I tell a lot of kids that are in urban areas is there's a certain reality to all of this. If something happens in your community, I don't care what community it is, it could be suburban, it could be urban, in the United States, when something happens, the first people that people call if someone breaks into your house or commits a crime is who?
The police.
The police.
Oh,
Right.
Right? So, inherently, you must believe inherently that they're not all bad.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But if we don't challenge them to think that way, and the only thing that they hear and that they're exposed to is that they're all bad, then you've got these positions that are drawn. Now, that's that side of it. Now, there's another side of it that, you know, how do you perceive the people that you have to go see about?
Being in the business for 30 years, I've seen a lot of changes. I started an impact committee here, improving modern community police trust, that where a lot of diverse folks can sit down with the basically white dominated police forces, right? So we can all share experiences, get to know each other. And what we have in this town is we don't know each other. You know, we're a pretty segregated town still, so we're sending young white cops into an African-American neighborhood and telling them people how to live their lives. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Then they leave, right? You gotta do this, this, and this, see you later, we're out of here.
Right.
Doesn't work. So, you know, the system kind of ties our hands on recruiting minorities. Culturally, a lot of minorities don't want to be police officers, so we got to work on that. But we got to fix the system so we can get more minorities who can police minority communities. You know, if the shoe's on the other foot, you wouldn't want a bunch of African-American cops storming into a white neighborhood telling them how to live their lives, right? Right. We're very upset. So this is an easy fix, but again, it's something I've seen for 30 years just deteriorate, and nobody wants to stand up and do the right thing. I fired 2 white police officers for racial text messages. I set the bar high that this office won't tolerate that, and I hope everybody across the country follows that pattern, because it can't be tolerated. Yeah.
Let me just ask you from your perspective, when we were talking about like a broad sweep, like none of us, whether it be male, female, immigrant, native, black, white, none of us want like a broad sweep, like we're labeled and stereotyped. How has all the media, you know, painting this broad brush on law enforcement? How do you guys feel as law enforcement? Like when you're in uniform or whatever, and I'm just trying to picture, like if I was law enforcement, I would like almost have a complex walk around in uniform, feeling like everybody hates me, like everybody just thinks I'm racist. You know, like I'm racist and you don't even know me. Like, so from your perspective, how does that feel? Like, do you guys feel that way? Do you feel like everybody hates us? I mean, I'm just thinking how I might feel, the way the media paints it. Like, I walk into a neighborhood instantly, you know, I'm racist, I'm bigot. Like, I would just feel that way.
Yeah, no, we don't feel like everybody
You don't?
hates us.
Okay.
No, we have relationships in the communities, but the media doesn't help. You know, there are some bad cops that have had some bad shootings, and the media plays it for 2
Right.
weeks straight. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they just blow it out of proportion.
Right.
Rallies everybody up, and then we start clashing again.
I live in Columbus, but I am a black hillbilly.
I didn't know that.
What?
You didn't, a black hillbilly, man. I am from Moundsville, West Virginia, buddy. I am a hillbilly. You hear me, brother? And I'm a proud hillbilly too. Y'all might be living in the ghetto, buddy, but I'm a proud hillbilly.
That's awesome.
Let me say this real quick. First of all, I mean, the sheriff said something.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I really am. Because he said something that a lot of people in the law enforcement community will not say. And you said it, brother. You said, you like, get some black folks to patrol the communities. I mean, let's just keep it real. Like that's.
And he's not a racist saying that.
No, hell no.
He's being real.
Well, let me just say this real quick. Ohio State University and Columbus Police Department came together some years back when I was the VP of the NAACP. We challenged Columbus on this racial profiling. Now I'm gonna tell you something. It shocked them when they gave us the interview and they said, we spent $14,000 and we showed that there was not really any significant racial profiling in Columbus or whatever. And so I looked at them, I was like, they said, you have anything to say? I said, yeah, you need a racial profile. I don't know what the hell you talking about. I think racial profile is not the issue. And they looked at me like, huh? Now, Vice President of NAACP saying you need a racial profile? You do. What does that mean by that? What you don't, now, of course, folks don't want to hear that out here.
Right.
What you don't need to do is discriminate and treat people bad. I had a gentleman one day, it was almost 3 o'clock in the morning. He had Licking County plates. We live in Franklin County. He was a white dude. He was in a predominantly black neighborhood with a black woman in the passenger seat, and he had a utility truck. Now I'm racial profiling my tail off. And he asked me, "You profiling me?" I said, "Absolutely, I am." He said, "Damn, you just said it?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not discriminating against you, but it don't fit."
Right. Gotcha.
If you're 15 years old in a nursing home, run around the damn hallways, I'm age profiling you.
Correct.
What we have got to do is we've got to start talking about the issue. And the issue is customer service. And then there's something on the police department that has to happen. I'm sorry, just real quick. There's something that has to happen on those police departments and the sheriff's departments is this. And the sheriff can tell you, when you go out you're going to go out and do investigate a homicide. A lot of the officers and detectives come back, they're frustrated because no one wants to snitch. Right? They don't want to tell anybody.
Right.
So I've asked this question to officers and I've trained or whatever. They're like, yeah, that's right. I said, well, what happened when a police officer beats the hell out of a black man? Do you want to snitch on him? And they're like, damn. See what I'm saying? That the room get real quiet.
Right.
Oh, you want them to snitch, but you won't snitch.
Right.
Whenever you commit that kind of infraction, it is the duty of that officer or that deputy.
So we have to change that.
We got to change that, and they have to be held accountable, and it cannot be tolerated that if you've seen this type of situation, you have to be Matt Dillon.
So we got to change that.
A year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, my son bought a place in Dayton, and he said, I want to be a part of the community. And he's over by Princeton Community Center. And he gets broken into. And he's like, Dad, we just been broken into. I don't know what to do. They've got this. And so I drive from my community to the community. In the meantime, I get there. It's probably faster than I should have and probably could have caused some problem, but it's my kid. And he's by himself. And so I already have my own emotions about Dayton. And my kid decided, Dad, you're doing stuff, I want to be a part of this. And so part of me is now I have a fear for my child. Right. He's not a little kid, he's bigger and wider than me, and he's sharp enough to take care of himself, but he's not. He was brought up in an all-white community. He is that way. We brought him places, but he's never really experienced it, and now he's in deep water. This is part of what he's doing. An hour and 15 minutes later, this burglary, officer comes into the house. In the meantime, I've now called the police department twice and saying, when's an officer gonna show up? I made it here in 15, you're an hour after me, and you're not here yet. You're up 3 down from the list, and the guy goes, where are you from? And I told him, he goes, oh, well, we don't do it like you guys do it there. And I said, where I live, the next town meeting, we'd be having a conversation.
Right.
You may have a way that you do business, but in my community, we're gonna do business a different way, so when there's a problem, you need to be there before an hour and 15 minutes, especially if it's a robbery. And that was my emotion. Of course, my heart's beating like crazy.
Right.
In the meantime, he's like, I said, son, you know, we can put the place up, you can move, you know, go back and be us. And he's like, Dad, I'm staying. So tomorrow, I want cameras, alarm system. I want to be able to next time see what this is. A week later, a 14-year-old kid shows up with his Audi keys to put in the car to drive the Audi away that he picked up the keys in his week before burglary. So my son's looking outside because now there's a motion detector that says there's activity. And he looks outside and he sees the car door open and he walks outside and says, what should I do? And he said, hey, get out of my car. The kid starts running. My kid could catch him. He goes, he looks like a 14, 15-year-old kid. He ain't taking the car. Locked it back up. We're ready to go. Then he buys a dog, as all the neighbors told him. And now he's part of the community. So he's the white boy in the community who's trying to figure out, what does this mean to me? And to that point, part of me is, I'm in the system as deep as I can get, based on my age and my experience, and not physically moving here. My wife is not willing to move into Dayton. But as close as I can get to the pulse of Dayton, through the juvenile, through the jail system, through HBCU University, through these clubs and through all these other things that I'm trying to do to better understand what it is. To me, the problem isn't that we have a lack of history or we don't really understand. Our real, to me, the real crux of the problem is we stop listening. You've got to involve higher level people. But the best teachers are the ones that break the rules.
You're in line.
The best teachers are the ones that look at the problem deeper and say, I'm going to have some impact. I don't know what it's going to be, but if I tell this story often enough, and it doesn't look like you need something, because the desire for me is I have a window of time left. So I'm going to do with what I have left, I'm going to do well. But there was a window of time that I wish I had spent more time. And so trying to get people to realize that 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, when you leave this detention center, you can now have an impact. You can make an impact. And so he's going to do a much better job than I'm going to do. But if I gave him some tools and I gave him the ability to use the 4,600 contacts I have in my phone to benefit him, I'm a resource. And so instead of giving him anything other than time to hear him and becoming a resource for him, at some point you're going to have an impact on 20,000 people. So I mean, we don't really know what's going on. As close as we are to the problem, unless we go back and start listening to the kids,
oh yeah, absolutely,
we're going to have a bigger problem in the future.
The biggest thing we've learned here is that everybody has a different perspective. Everybody's worth listening to. Nobody, it was like there was no right, no wrong answers, but it's a collective group of all of us coming here, listening, better understanding. And I think, one of the things he said, it's really about us getting in the trenches. All of us saying, okay, what can I do in my neighborhood? What can I do in my sphere of influence? And I think that's how we make the change. So everybody stand up. Let's stand up. We're gonna do a group hug. Everybody got to do a group hug. Everybody got to hug somebody before they leave. So we're gonna hug out.
okay, I know what you meant. I'm like.